Not all writers are like this, but I'm very comfortable with people giving me feedback.
Do you ever have kind of ringing or funny sounds in your ears?
Most of what I write are papers that describe some of the results of the research that we do, mostly on new therapies for patients with cystic fibrosis.
Take a lie back. Check the belly. Did you have breakfast today?
Typically, the first author, the person sort of led the study, is responsible for putting that first draft together and saying, okay, this is about as good as I can get it. Or if you have a sense that you're kind of stuck, say, all right, this is a good stopping point. I'm going to send it to everybody and then get their feedback. And so what's nice is with email, you simply put the document in and send it off to people, and then you give them kind of a desired deadline when you want to hear back from them. And you really appreciate the importance of deadlines in this process, because if everybody else you're working with is as busy as you are, they won't get around to it. So you give them a deadline, and you know that probably the day before it's due on that deadline, they're going to take a look at it and send you the comments. And some people will really spend a lot of time and are very good at writing and will give really, really good feedback. A lot of times people will do just track changes in the document so you can see the changes they've made. And then you have to read through all of the comments and then figure out what changes you want to make and what things you probably don't agree with.
I'm pretty secure. I don't feel threatened by having people comment about my work. So the more of it I get, the better. You know, I really don't feel protective in that way. It's a segue in some ways from what I was talking about a minute ago, which is this idea of needing people to be soundboards for me, and like sounding boards, you know, asking people to help me by listening to what I'm working on. That said, you can't give stuff to people too early, because they have to be able to read and understand what's going on at a minimum. So I try to get sort of rough draft pass on things before I hand it to somebody, and then I try to choose carefully who I'm giving it to, because it needs to be somebody who can kind of, you know, interpret the roughness and go, okay, well, this is going to be okay in the end, but, you know, even if it looks really terrible right now.
Whatever the communication is, whether it's something I'm going to deliver via email, I'm never going to see the individual, whether it's a written piece of sales collateral that I'm not always going to be on the sales call with the person when they're giving it out, or it's going to be sent via mail, or it's an operations plan that has to live even if I get run over by a bus. I always give it to somebody or some group that represents the audience in a small way, and ask them to read it and tell me what they got from it. Because if they don't come back with the 1, 2, 3, 4 big block issues that I was trying to communicate, then I've missed the mark. So I interact with people at the idea stage. I interact with people at the kind of the storyboard, rough draft stage. I interact with people at the first version, and then ultimately I interact with somebody who looks just like the audience that I'm ultimately going to present it to.